Journalists introduce us to a small Korean diner. Its owner turns out to be a young girl named Rumi. She confesses that when her father left the family, her mother was very sick and they decided to do what they loved. Now the girl owns a small business making homemade fried wings. One night, the diner begins to be taken over by construction workers. Rumi wakes up and calls Uncle Kim to await rescue. The building where she and her mother keep the restaurant has fallen into the zone of reconstruction, and during another skirmish, the girl's mother appears. Only a moment passes before Rumi's mother is dragged out of the car. The woman hits her head hard on the curb, causing her to lose consciousness. This situation was not planned, so the men panicked. Rumi helped call an ambulance and take her mother to surgery. The girl waits in the corridor, but after a while, she hears the sound of her heart stopping. The rocket flies toward the city, but hits a small creek. Through the low tunnels, the rocket's power leaks into the spring, filling the drinking water with unearthly possibilities. During a morning walk, a guy named Hyun decides to drink some of the spring water. After a small sip, he gets very sick, and the guy tries unsuccessfully to keep other people safe. He works as a security guard at a bank and is constantly stealing consumables for customers. After finishing his shift, the guy heads to a small cafe for a cup of coffee. All day long, his stomach hurts, and in the evening, the man discovers he has an unusual ability. He can now control objects at a distance. His body is filled with the power of telekinesis, which destroys the street gazebo. The owner of the establishment becomes angry, and throws the man out. The guard returns to the cluttered house. He lies down to sleep on the floor because the pain in his stomach won't stop. The guy begins to realize that he attracts objects and can destroy things. At this time, he gets a call from Rumi, who turns out to be his daughter. She informs him that her mother has died. Rumi holds a farewell ceremony for her loved ones, and notices her father. They talk a little about what happened, until the conversation is interrupted. The construction workers, whose fault the mother's death was, come to the ceremony. They apologize, and try to end the conflict, without going to court. The men argue that the mother died driving the car and that it wasn't their fault at all. Rumi's father is introduced to by a lawyer named Kim. He gives a little tour of the ruined Korean diner building that belonged to his daughter. There are plans to build a mall for Chinese tourists in that building. The guy recognizes the girl in the pictures. Rumi was happy in her business and accomplished a lot. Kim tries to convince the engineers, in opposition to the authorities, who plan to redevelop part of the city, for their economic purposes. Hyun returns to work, where he has to sit out the night shift. He finds himself in an empty room and turns everything around him into flying objects. Moments later, his partner joins him. Hyun wonders how much wizards earn, and is surprised, because the sums are enormous. On average, they make anywhere from $1 million a night, and that's not a salary cap at all. Entrepreneurs gather in the premises of a huge warehouse to defeat the city's big redevelopment together. The father discourages everyone from staying overnight. The man argues that returning people with a bulldozer will not lead to a good ending and the building will be destroyed. Hyun tries to convince his daughter of the necessity of going to college and to dissuade her from making flashy decisions. The girl chases Hyun away, as he does not adhere to the opinions of those around him. A man is interviewed at a nightclub called the Vacation Bar. Hyun introduces his employer to his superpower, which was given to him by spring water. Now, he is able to lift and move objects, much to the surprise of the establishment's director. He is hired and taken on probation. Rumi, for her part, keeps trying to prove the fault of the builders, led by the city government. No one believes her version, since there is no basis for making accusations. Kim brings the girl to the lead attorney, who admits that the autopsy of the body is not enough to charge the city officials. Now he asks for the video from the recorder, which may have recorded the event. The girl is going to solve the problem herself, but the lawyer tries to help her with the case. He leads her to the truck and is going to solve the DVR problem himself. The man claims that the girl needs to go to college and he can provide the money. The father shows tricks and proves his unearthly abilities. He suggests that the girl move in with him, but she reminds him of her broken childhood. Rumi does not see the man as a father and leaves. The man recalls these moments and realizes he was wrong before. On his way home, the man notices construction workers' cars that are on their way to demolish buildings. The wizard warns that guys in white helmets are on their way and tries to get everyone out to block the doors. A huge mob of construction workers runs into the building. They smash everything in their way and intimidate people. Father returns to the building and tries to find Rumi to get the girl out. He decides to use his powers and picks up objects, destroying everything around him. What he sees greatly frightens the construction workers and they stop. At this point, police officers show up in the building to stop what is happening. The construction workers try to prove that they are innocent, because the guys were thrown off after the man's unearthly forces. They hand the police a flash drive with surveillance footage that clearly shows Sok-yeon's actions. The police send everyone home, with no desire to investigate. The team of businessmen rejoice in their successes and are shocked by Sok-yeon's actions. The builders decide to demolish the building at night, but it cannot be done. The entrepreneurs hide on the roof of the building and watch them. Moments pass and the builders' car flies into a collection of junk. The team rejoices and heads back down to the warehouse. On the way, Kim asks about the man's abilities, for he too dreams of learning magic. To this request, he gets a terse reply, "Perhaps these abilities were given to me to be a good father." We are transported to the headquarters of the construction workers, some of whom intend to quit. They are seriously frightened by what happened that night and do not want to make the same mistakes again. The lawyer talks to Rumi, explaining that her father is trying for her and is trying to make amends. The girl responds negatively to these assumptions because she doesn't believe in Sok-yeon's love. The girl's name means weak and inconspicuous, the name her own father called her, but Kim tries to change her mind and prove that Sok-yeon cares for Rumi. A team of entrepreneurs creates a small business plan to promote Sok-yeon's talents. They advise the guy to be mindful of his superpowers, and make money from them all over the world. Rumi offers to go out for a stew at a local diner, and Sok-yeon agrees. His daughter worries about the man's health, but he cheerfully replies that work does not take over. The head of the project to rebuild part of the town meets with the president of the construction workers. They begin talking about meeting the project deadlines. At this point, the construction workers burst into the meeting room and begin brutally beating the president. The girl tries to resolve the conflict and calls the police. The president reports that the project is delayed because the entrepreneurs have unbelievable powers that beat up the construction workers and wreck their cars. In the evening, the news broadcasts about a man with superpowers. A professor at a scientific institute proves that the man has an invisible device from North Korea that emits the strongest magnetic waves. He remarks that the protesters could easily get their hands on this drug and blackmail the construction workers. The next morning, Mr. Sok-yeon is accused of stealing consumables from the bank and is taken away. Rumi calls his lawyer and asks him to go to the station immediately and deal with what happened. In the meantime, the owner of the development project comes up with a new plan in which the president must choose one builder who will pose as Rumi's mother's killer and the case will be closed. Later, she promises to open an office for the president with a completely different name. The case is closed and Kim is informed of this, and now the establishment is in great jeopardy. When the lawyer arrives at the office, he is disappointed because it is completely empty. Kim calls the girl to warn her of the danger, but it becomes too late. A bulldozer with a squad of police and construction workers heads for the establishments. In the meantime, Sok-yeon is led into a conversation with the girl, the project manager. She offers to make money from his talent, as it must be channeled in the right direction. The girl informs him that there will be no compensation for the ruined facilities and the murder of Rumi's mother, and that the daughter herself will be arrested today. The protest continues and the police are not interested in the safety of the protesters. They use Molotov cocktails and try to win the illegal protest, but the police are well fortified and defy their opposition. A bulldozer demolishes the building and the protesters try to escape to avoid being victims of debris and fire. Life is treacherous and the girl's uncle gets hit hard by metal. Rumi tries to help get him out from under the rubble and escape faster. At this time, the project manager talks to Sok-yeon about working things. She offers him a job at her company so he can earn good money and not need the money. The woman leaves him a business card and gives him time to think for the evening. Kim calls Rumi and directs the protesters to the roof of the building to avoid being arrested. Sok-yeon accidentally learns about what's going on from the news channel and decides to leave quickly. With the help of superpowers, the man gets out of jail, disperses people and breaks down the woman's car. Moments later, he learns of a huge protest and rushes to save his daughter. It flies all over the city as the protesters are forced onto the roof of the building. The SWAT team gets out of the truck and is about to get on the roof with a crane and a container. Uncle Kim tries to resist the construction workers and clings to the railing with all his might, but it breaks. At a certain point, the hand slips, but Sok-yeon saves the man. Sok-yeon crashes into a container with the police, and enters a multi-story building with an entire team of police officers. The man quickly tackles them. After that, he goes to the roof, where his daughter tries to save an SBU member who falls from a container. With all his might, Sok-yeon tries to save his daughter, along with the SBU rulers, but Rumi is thwarted. Once again, the man saves the girl and brings her back to the roof. Sok-yeon decides to leave and surrender to the police. The protesters' final push for freedom is the assassination of the president. 4 years pass. Sok-yeon is released from prison early. The man is picked up by Kim and confesses that he's going to marry Rumi, because he's always liked her. Kim reveals that after 4 years, the project to build the mall is not over, because there wasn't enough money to invest. They arrive at Rumi's new establishment and meet old acquaintances. The daughter is very happy to see her father, and asks him to help carry the beer to the customers. The father remembers the old opportunities and carries the beer using super strength.